Okay, Michael Maguire has been named the new Brisbane Broncos head coach, replacing Kevin Walters, who was sacked last week following a poor season with the Brisbane Broncos to finish 12th. Which means Brisbane only made the finals once in 5 seasons, and they've had a wooden spoon, and now they're on yet another head coach since Wayne Bennett departed the club 6 years ago. Now, Michael Maguire, not really an outstanding playing career at first grade. Two separate spells with Canberra and a brief spell with Adelaide. Didn't play a lot of first grade, but as a coach, he's got a fantastic resume. Now, he's not everyone's cup of tea, and there's been those who think this is a bad appointment. But let's have a look at his coaching stats. So he starts coaching professionally at the Wigan Warriors in 2010. He's there for 2 seasons, the 2010 and 2011 seasons, had a 76% win percentage. That's ridiculous. Not in anyone's imagination. 76% of games he coached in a 2 year spell he won. Because of his success at Wigan, and we'll look at the honours he got there, he's appointed by the South Sydney Rabbitohs. He's there for 5 years between 2012 and 2017. His win percentage does drop to 56%, but again, had success with South Sydney with a pretty good side. His spell at West Tigers is known for the wooden spoon and the disaster that was, and the tales of Tiger Town and the complete and utter dysfunction at the West Tigers. But since he's departed, they've had two more wooden spoons, so it's not really on Michael Maguire. I think it's more on the football department as a whole and the board and a whole range of issues at the West Tigers. And most people will look at his spell at the West Tigers and go, well, you see, that's the concern. 36% win percentage, which is the lowest he's had ever as a coach in rep or in club football. And you know, a lot of people will look at his 3 year spell at the West Tigers and go, you see, this is a big risk. But then you look at what he did at South Sydney and at Wigan and you go, well, actually, he's a very, very good coach. Not everyone agrees with his methods, and he's not everyone's cup of tea. But with New Zealand, whilst also coaching the West Tigers, there was a one year where he just coached New Zealand as a standout. Between 2018 and 2023, he had a 67% win percentage as Kiwis head coach. And of course, this season, in the 3 games he coached for New South Wales, he completely turned the fortunes around for the New South Wales Blues, considering they'd been on the back end of some poor origin performances in previous seasons, when a lot was expected of the Blues, considering the talent they have available. And he changed the culture. And people, when he was appointed as head coach of New South Wales, were like, but look what happened at the West Tigers. Just look. He won 2 out of the 3 Origin matches, including, well, both wins were away from home. One up in Brisbane, which is really hard to do, in the decider, and in Melbourne. He won both the games this year as head coach away from home, which in Origin is really, really hard to do. Very, very few teams do it. There's been very, very few clean sweeps. So that just shows how he's transformed the culture of New South Wales around in that single Origin camp and those 3 games. Yes, the first game, Suaalii gets sent off, and it was a bit of a disappointing scoreline. But the response in Game 2 and Game 3, the players bought in to what he wanted them to do, and he made players proud to represent the blue of New South Wales, and it's sort of like it did a Queenslander on Queensland. So his coaching speaks for itself. His spell at the West Tigers was a disaster, but everyone who coaches the West Tigers, it's a disaster, because the West Tigers are a basket case of a club. Now, the honours he's won as a head coach in Super League, they won the Super League Grand Final with Wigan and the League Leaders Shield in 2010, so basically their version of the minor premiership over here, and he won the Challenge Cup in 2011. So in both seasons, silverware. In the NRL, within 2 years of taking over at South Sydney, won a premiership in 2014. 2015, they win the World Club Challenge and the NRL Auckland Nine. So in 2 seasons there, won silverware very early on. But as time went on, South Sydney started to tail off a little bit and things started to break down a little bit. Obviously, in comes Wayne Bennett later on to replace him. But the first phase of his time at South Sydney was very, very good. Got the best out of Adam Reynolds. He got the best out of Adam Reynolds, which I think could be crucial with the relationship with Adam Reynolds at the Brisbane Broncos, and a good relationship there with Michael Maguire. With New Zealand, he won the Pacific Nations Cup last year, the Test internationals that we had at the end of last season, including a record-breaking win over Australia. A disappointing World Cup campaign, I will admit. They didn't quite get over the line in the World Cup, even though they were slated as favourites. And there were times with New Zealand he was experimenting a little bit with his lineup, playing a few players in different positions, like Micheal and Joey Manu, slightly out of position and experimenting a little bit, which potentially derailed them a little bit. So a slightly disappointing World Cup campaign. And then the opening test match of the Pacific Cup that we had last year, a bad defeat to the Australians, to the Kangaroos, and then the record-breaking win. He turns it around. Very similar to what he did with Origin this year, and of course the State of Origin series this year in 2024, they win both games away from home. So, as I say, he's not everyone's cup of tea, but one thing you will expect from him is discipline and fitness. He will expect the players to buy in. He won't deal with any ego. You put the ego out the door and you buy into the system. So he's used to dealing with egos. He wants effort, commitment, and fitness from his players. The Brisbane Broncos squad is young and talented. There is no doubt on that. But there's a clear issue with discipline, fitness, and too many egos. The egos, like Reece Walsh, for example, Ezra Mam, they've been allowed to dictate things in the dressing room. The fitness is a concern. They do fall away in games. They do look out enthused as well, and potentially not fit enough. The start of this season, they did not look fit enough. They looked leggy from the start of the season. Same with the grand final defeat last year. That second half, they were in control. The last 20 minutes, they had nothing left in the tank. They were exhausted. So fitness and getting the discipline within the squad as well, and keeping the egos in check. That's something he's very good at. He's very, very good at that. He expects players to have commitment for each other, buy in and put the ego out the door. So it'll be interesting to see how the current Brisbane squad that he's inheriting, which is not a bad squad. It's a very talented squad. There's a lot of skill there. There's a lot of ability there. It's just getting it all together with a bit of fitness. They look really, really good in 2023 in patches. They seem to have learnt from 2022 where they fell away in the second half of the season. But fitness is key, discipline is key, and commitment to each other. They do have the skill, they have the talent. It's getting everything together. So it'll be interesting to see if all the players buy in and how they respond to his coaching techniques. As I say, when we had the Tales of Tiger Town about the West Tigers, that documentary Fly on the Wall series, I think that was his undoing. I think agreeing to that was the beginning of the end for him at West Tigers. But the West Tigers as a club are a basket case. Every coach that's got into the West Tigers for the last 12 years hasn't had the best roster to work with, or even the support of the board. So, and a lot of people will look at his 3 years at Wests and go, well, it was a disaster. That shows what he is as a coach. But Wigan and South Sydney, he was successful. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see what happens with roster turnover. As I say, the squad he's got is talented. It's getting them to buy in, and it's more to do with, I think, the fitness and the mental side of things, and also getting rid of the egos, as in leave the ego at the door, buy in, work hard, defence, fitness, and building a culture. And that's, I think, something that could be broken at Brisbane a little bit, is there's something not quite right behind the scenes, very similar to West Tigers. Now, we had good culture at Wigan, good culture at South Sydney. Wests, it seemed the players weren't either fit enough or buying in. There were some bad contracts signed that he got lumbered with. Potentially we could see that at Brisbane. Now they've got a massive talent pool to choose from, so he might promote some of the younger players who are in Queensland Cup, for example, in Jersey Flegg, up through the ranks. So we might see some new fresh faces make the Elite 30 squad. Yeah, we'll see what his relationship is like with some of the bigger egos in that squad, like Reece Walsh and Ezra Mam, and how he can rekindle his relationship with some other players he has coached before. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on Michael Maguire being named as the new Brisbane Broncos head coach in the comments section below. But for me, for now, it is. Thank you very much for watching. I will have some more content for you guys soon, and of course, I always mention this now. We have memberships available, so feel free to check that out. And if you like what you see, also hit the subscribe button. But for me, for now, it is goodbye. Thank you very much for watching. I'll have some more content for you all very, very soon.